Alex Mercer sat at the edge of his cot, staring at the glowing panels of his small quarters aboard the orbital station. The hum of machinery was steady, almost comforting, but his mind was restless. Nights like this were always the hardest. The station was quiet, most of the crew occupied with routines, maintenance, or data logs. He had finished his own duties hours ago, but his mind refused to shut down. There was something about the vastness of space, the infinite black stretching beyond the station's reinforced walls, that made a man feel both powerful and insignificantly small at the same time. He rubbed his face, tired from the long shifts, and reached for a mug of nutrient fluid. The sweet taste was nothing like coffee back on Earth, but it did the job. Just as he was about to sip, a subtle vibration ran through the floor beneath his feet. At first he thought it was the station's routine systems recalibrating, but then he heard it, a soft, almost inaudible thump, like something delicate had landed near his quarters. Alex froze, his instincts kicking in. Security protocols were strict, and no one was supposed to enter his room without clearance. Slowly he stood, scanning the small space with cautious eyes. "Hello," he called out, keeping his voice low. There was no reply. He reached for the side panel to call security, but before he could, a shimmer appeared in the corner of his room. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light. Then the shimmer solidified into a form, slender, graceful, and clearly not human. Her skin was pale with a soft luminescent glow, eyes large and golden, reflecting the lights of the station in a way that made them seem almost alive. Her movements were fluid, silent, and deliberate. Alex's first instinct was to step back, but something in her posture told him she meant no harm. She looked nervous, unsure. She was scanning the room with curiosity, and when her eyes met his, he felt a strange pull, not fear, not threat, but an almost magnetic curiosity. Then she did something he could not have anticipated. Without a word, she removed the layers of strange, tight-fitting clothing she wore for the journey, folding them neatly beside her, and lay down across his chest. Alex's mind froze for a heartbeat, 1,000 thoughts racing. Panic could have taken over, but he forced himself to stay calm. He had read about viralians in the interspecies files. This was not aggression. It was their way of connecting, of communicating. Their physiology was unique. Physical contact was a form of expression, a way to regulate emotions and even share thoughts in flashes of feeling rather than words. "Okay," he whispered to himself, taking a deep breath. "Just stay calm." The Virelian shifted slightly, her head resting near his shoulder, her golden eyes closing as she relaxed. Alex felt a warmth spreading through the small space, a comfort he had not realized he had been craving. It was strange, yes, but it was also safe. Tentatively, he placed a hand on her shoulder. The contact was not awkward, not tense. It was simple and human, a grounding touch that seemed to say, "I am here. I will not hurt you." Images began to flash in his mind, sudden and vivid. He saw her journey through deep space, the cold corridors of her own vessel, the loneliness of a species far from home. Emotions followed: fear, curiosity, longing, and a desire to understand. She was reaching out, not with words but with what felt like her soul. Alex closed his eyes, letting the feelings wash over him. For hours, or maybe minutes, time felt different here. He allowed himself to connect. In return, he sent back calm, stability, and reassurance. Slowly, he understood her better. She was not a threat. She was a visitor lost in a strange place, reaching out in the only way she knew. As the first signs of dawn approached on the far side of the station, the ambient lights casting pale shadows across the room, Alex began to speak softly. "I'm Alex. You're safe here. I won't hurt you." She stirred slightly, a small sound escaping her lips that sounded almost like laughter. Then she projected an image of her world, a place of towering structures, soft glowing fields, and skies that shimmered in colors Alex had never imagined. He realized this was her way of introducing herself, sharing a piece of her life with him. Over the next few hours, Alex learned the basics. Her name in her language was Lyra, though he had trouble pronouncing it exactly. She was a scout, sent ahead of her species fleet to study humans, to understand them before formal contact. But something had gone wrong during her journey. She had been separated from her ship, her systems damaged, and she had arrived at the station by accident. Alex's analytical mind began working on solutions. He would help her. He could repair her navigation implants, stabilize her energy fields, and ensure she could communicate safely with the rest of her people. But first, he needed to earn her trust completely. And that meant allowing her to feel safe, to feel understood. For the rest of the night, they remained close. Alex learned to read her subtle signals, a twitch of her ear-like appendages, the slight change in her breathing, the way her hands twitched when she wanted attention. In turn, she began to mirror his own human gestures, an almost shy attempt at empathy and understanding. By the time the station's morning cycle began, bringing the low hum of life back into the corridors, Alex realized something remarkable. In all his years aboard ships and stations, he had never formed a connection like this. It was instantaneous, unexpected, and utterly human in its emotional depth. Even though Lyra was not human, the bond felt genuine. Later, when other crew members began their shifts, Alex managed to keep Lyra hidden, knowing that not everyone would understand. The station was strict, and security protocols were designed to prevent any unknown alien presence from wandering freely. But Alex knew that revealing her too soon could lead to panic or worse, containment that would frighten her. Instead, he focused on the small victories. He found a quiet storage alcove where she could safely lie down, connected her neural interface to a human-compatible terminal, and began recording her memories and emotions for study. Each flash of insight gave Alex glimpses into Virelian life, their culture, their fears, and their hopes. He realized that humanity was not alone in its curiosity and drive to explore. Lyra was a mirror of their own species' desire to reach out, to understand, and to connect. Hours turned into days. Alex adjusted his routines, making time for Lyra whenever he could. He discovered that her presence was more than comforting, it was inspiring. With her nearby, he solved complex technical problems faster, made better decisions, and even found himself smiling more often. The station felt less isolating, less cold, as if her warmth was seeping into the walls themselves. Then came the moment he had not expected. As they were working on stabilizing her navigation interface, Lyra sent him a sequence of thoughts that were almost like a question. She wanted to know if humans could feel the way she did, through presence, through touch, through shared thought. Alex realized that, in a sense, they already were. Their connection was a bridge between species, something that defied language and protocol. He looked down at her resting against his chest, golden eyes briefly flickering open, and realized that first contact had already happened, not through diplomacy, not through ceremony, but through trust, curiosity, and understanding. The station outside continued its slow orbit around the distant planet. Unaware of the quiet revolution happening in one small room, the universe waited. And in that room, two beings, one human, one alien, were discovering something extraordinary. That connection, courage, and empathy were universal. By the time Alex finally rose from his cot, Lyra stretched, a small sound escaping her lips. It was not fear, nor panic, nor command, it was contentment. And for the first time since the station had launched, Alex felt a deep sense of hope. Humanity had reached out into the stars and, against all odds, found someone waiting to reach back. Days passed aboard the station, and Alex found that his life had changed in ways he could never have predicted. Lyra stayed close to him most of the time, her presence a constant reminder of the vast mysteries of the universe. At first, he worried about the opinions of other crew members. Humans were naturally cautious around the unknown, and the idea of an alien moving freely aboard the station was almost unimaginable. But he realized that Lyra's actions were never harmful. She only sought warmth, safety, and understanding, and gradually, Alex's respect and fascination for her grew. Their mornings began with analysis and maintenance. Alex taught Lyra about human tools, devices, and logic systems, and she, in return, shared flashes of her knowledge. It was not conventional teaching. It was a mix of images, sensations, and emotions that Alex learned to interpret. With her guidance, he repaired minor malfunctions in the station's systems in ways that no manual could explain. Energy fields that had once fluctuated wildly were now stable, and minor errors in navigation were corrected almost instantly. Despite the progress, Alex knew they could not stay hidden forever. Rumors among the crew had begun to circulate, and the station's head of security was growing suspicious. He had to find a way to integrate Lyra into the station's operations without causing panic or a full-scale protocol breach. He thought carefully, realizing that the first step was to show that Lyra's presence was beneficial, not dangerous. One afternoon, a warning alarm blared through the station. A small power relay on the far side of the orbital ring had failed, threatening to overload the life support systems. Alex raced through the corridors, Lyra gliding silently beside him. She moved with perfect balance, her long limbs allowing her to navigate narrow maintenance shafts easily. When they reached the relay, it was clear that the damage was more extensive than the readout suggested. Alex worked quickly, but the wiring was unlike anything he had seen. Then, without prompting, Lyra touched his shoulder and images flooded his mind. The proper sequence, the energy harmonics, the exact timing to prevent a catastrophic failure. Trusting the visions, Alex followed her guidance, rerouting energy flows and stabilizing the system. Within minutes, the alarm ceased, and the station's life support returned to normal. The other crew members arrived moments later, drawn by the alarm. They froze when they saw Lyra, her pale skin and golden eyes standing out in the maintenance chamber. Alex stepped forward, calm and authoritative. She helped. Without her guidance, the system would have failed. Some crew members looked skeptical, but others were astonished. The realization slowly spread that this alien being was not only non-hostile, but capable of working alongside humans in ways they had never imagined. Lyra, sensing their hesitation, projected images of the successful repair, including the precise energy flows she had shared with Alex. The crew watched, fascinated, their doubts melting into awe. After the incident, Alex found himself with more freedom to teach Lyra about human customs, food, and routines. She was endlessly curious, often mimicking subtle gestures to understand them fully. She laughed softly when Alex attempted to explain Earth humor, though her telepathic communication occasionally revealed that some concepts were difficult for her species to grasp. Still, she tried, and Alex appreciated the effort. Their nights became moments of reflection. Lyra often rested against Alex, her presence stabilizing his own emotional state. She shared visions of her homeworld, vast forests with glowing flora, rivers of liquid light, and skies that shimmered with multiple suns. Alex listened, fascinated, and in return, he shared stories of Earth, humanity's resilience, and the desire to explore and connect. The bond between them grew stronger, not in a way that required words but in shared understanding. Alex began to notice subtle changes in himself. He was calmer under pressure, more confident in decision-making, and more empathetic toward the crew. Lyra's influence was undeniable, and he realized that humanity had something unique to offer the universe, the ability to adapt emotionally and intellectually to completely foreign experiences. Yet the station was not without danger. One day, a minor meteor shower passed too close to the orbit, sending fragments that struck parts of the station. Alex and Lyra worked together to prevent breaches, rerouting energy shields and reinforcing hull sections. The synergy between human intuition and Virelian perception proved invaluable. Crew members who had doubted Lyra now relied on her insight, and slowly, the station began to accept her as part of the team. Despite the cooperation, there were still challenges. Lyra's need for physical contact was sometimes misunderstood. Some humans hesitated to approach, unsure how to react to her gestures. Alex took it upon himself to explain her behavior, emphasizing that it was a natural part of her species, biology and communication. Slowly, the crew adjusted, and a new level of trust emerged. One evening, while Alex monitored the station's outer sensors, Lyra projected a vision that made him pause. A distant object, unlike anything in human records, was approaching the station at high speed. Alex immediately called the security team, but the readings were confusing. Traditional sensors could not determine its composition or intent. Lyra's presence became critical. She guided Alex through the unknown energy patterns, her thoughts merging with his, allowing him to interpret signals the instruments could not detect. The object was not hostile. It was a probe sent by another faction of her species, searching for her. Lyra shared a sense of urgency. They had to make contact carefully, or the probe might consider the station compromised. With her guidance, Alex prepared a response protocol. He adjusted the station's shields to communicate in energy patterns familiar to the Virelians, using light pulses and resonance sequences. The probe responded, and the situation stabilized. Humanity had succeeded in its first real diplomatic encounter with alien technology, thanks to the bond between Alex and Lyra. Afterward, the station's commander requested a full report. Alex included every detail of Lyra's abilities and their shared work, emphasizing the potential for human adaptability and cooperation with other species. The commander, impressed, authorized a controlled integration program for Lyra, ensuring her safety and continuing study. That night, as the station drifted silently through orbit, Alex sat with Lyra resting against his chest. She had shared more than technology and vision. She had shared perspective, a glimpse into an entirely different way of experiencing life. Alex understood that this was only the beginning. Humanity had reached out into the stars, and in return they had been met with curiosity, intelligence, and trust. Lyra opened her eyes, golden and luminous in the dim light, and projected a single thought: "Thank you." Alex smiled, realizing that words were unnecessary. Their connection, forged in trust and shared experience, was already a bridge between two worlds. As sleep approached, Alex reflected on the past few days. Humanity's strength was not only in technology or weapons, but in the ability to connect, to empathize, and to adapt. Lyra had reminded him of that truth in ways he would never forget. The station, once just a collection of metal and circuitry, now felt alive with possibility. The universe was vast and unpredictable, but with understanding, courage, and trust, humans could face it and even thrive. And for Alex Mercer, the days ahead promised new challenges, discoveries, and the continued growth of an extraordinary partnership that could change the course of human history. The orbital station had settled into a rhythm, but the calm was deceptive. Alex Mercer stood at the observation deck, staring out at the vast expanse of stars. Lyra hovered beside him, her golden eyes reflecting the distant light of the planet below. The bond between human and Virelian had grown stronger with each passing day. They had learned to work together seamlessly, interpreting each other's thoughts and intentions through a combination of touch, telepathic flashes, and subtle gestures. What had begun as curiosity had become a partnership, one that transcended species. Suddenly, the station's alarm systems blared, shattering the quiet. Sensors detected an anomaly approaching the orbit at high velocity. It was unlike anything recorded in human or Virelian databases, a massive energy pulse that seemed to warp space around it. The readings indicated it could destabilize the station if not handled correctly. Alex felt a familiar surge of adrenaline. He had faced crises before, but nothing like this. Lyra touched his shoulder, projecting a vision of the object's energy patterns. Alex interpreted the pulses as a form of communication, not aggression, but time was critical. The station crew scrambled to activate shields, run diagnostics, and secure life support. Alex and Lyra moved to the central control hub, their movements perfectly synchronized. She guided him through the sequence of energy calibrations, each pulse she showed him translating into precise commands he could input. As they worked, the object drew closer. The station shuddered under the strain of gravitational waves generated by its approach. Crew members shouted over the alarms, trying to maintain focus, but many were overwhelmed by the magnitude of the event. Alex stayed calm, trusting Lyra's insight. Her presence was steadying, a reminder that even in the unknown, collaboration and understanding could prevail. The object's energy began interacting with the station's shields, causing erratic fluctuations. Lyra projected a solution. They needed to merge human technology with Viralian energy manipulation. Alex immediately understood. Using the station's energy cores, he created a harmonizing field while Lyra synchronized it with her own bioenergy resonance. Together, they stabilized the fluctuations temporarily, buying precious minutes. The crew watched in awe as the human and alien worked as one. Their combined efforts allowed them to establish a two-way communication with the object. Images flooded the station's main display. It was a probe sent by Lyra's homeworld, a test of intelligence and adaptability. The probe's creators wanted to assess whether the beings it encountered could respond creatively to unexpected challenges. Alex and Lyra had passed, but the probe's energy signature was unstable. One misstep, one wrong calculation, and it could explode, causing irreparable damage to the station. Alex and Lyra focused, merging human logic with Viralian intuition. Every touch, every shared thought became a precise step in a delicate dance of survival. They rerouted energy flows, synchronized resonance patterns, and applied pressure to the station's stabilizers exactly where needed. Minutes felt like hours, but finally the probe's energy settled. The alarms ceased, and the station floated in silence, undamaged. Crew members exhaled, relief washing over the control hub. Some approached Alex and Lyra, still wary but clearly impressed. Alex realized that the success was more than just technical. It was a demonstration of what humanity could achieve when courage, intelligence, and empathy were applied without fear of the unknown. Later, in the quiet of his quarters, Alex sat with Lyra resting against his chest. She had again removed her protective clothing, a gesture of comfort and trust rather than necessity. He could feel her rhythmic breathing and the warmth of her skin. It was a strange sensation for a human, yet profoundly calming. Lyra projected images of her people observing from afar, signaling approval and gratitude. Alex smiled, understanding that he had not only prevented disaster, but had also built a bridge between two worlds. The station commander formally acknowledged their achievement. Lyra was integrated into station protocols, recognized not just as a visitor but as a valued collaborator. Alex's reports highlighted humanity's adaptability, problem-solving skills, and capacity for empathy, traits that the Viralians valued deeply. The alliance between the species was no longer theoretical. It had been proven through action, resilience, and trust. Despite the accolades and official recognition, Alex found his thoughts drifting to quieter moments. He remembered the first night Lyra had appeared, her vulnerability, her trust, and the way they had begun to understand each other without words. That bond had grown into something extraordinary, a partnership that showed both species that cooperation was not just possible but essential for survival in the vast, unpredictable universe. Over the following days, Alex and Lyra worked on refining their communication techniques. They experimented with combined human and Virelian technology, finding new ways to harmonize energy flows and stabilize systems. Other crew members learned from their methods, and soon, the entire station operated more efficiently and safely than ever before. One evening, as the station drifted past a distant nebula, Alex and Lyra stood together at the observation deck. Lyra projected an image of her homeworld's twin suns, casting brilliant light across vast forests and glowing rivers. Alex, in return, shared images of Earth, its mountains, oceans, and cities. The exchange was more than educational, it was symbolic. Two species, once separated by unimaginable distances, were now connected through understanding, trust, and shared experience. Lyra rested again against Alex's chest, her eyes half closed in contentment. He felt the same calm and warmth that had marked their first encounter, but now it was strengthened by shared triumphs and mutual respect. In that moment, Alex realized something profound. Humanity's true strength lay not in technology or weapons, but in courage, empathy, and the ability to adapt to the unknown. As the station orbited silently above the distant planet, Alex made a promise to himself. He would continue to learn, to explore, and to extend humanity's hand into the stars, not with fear or suspicion, but with trust and understanding. Lyra, sensing his resolve, mirrored it, projecting a vision of exploration and cooperation that extended far beyond the station itself. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of challenges, but humanity had proven it could rise to meet them. Alex Mercer and Lyra were living proof. Together, they had shown that courage, intelligence, and empathy were universal forces, capable of bridging worlds and forging alliances that could change the course of history. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and for the first time, Alex felt truly ready for whatever lay ahead. Lyra shifted slightly, resting her head against his shoulder, a quiet affirmation of trust and friendship. Alex smiled, closing his eyes for a brief moment. They had faced the unknown and emerged stronger, not because of weapons or strength, but because of their connection, their understanding, and their willingness to reach out. Humanity had made its mark among the stars, not with conquest but with cooperation, courage, and heart. And in a small room aboard an orbital station, a human and a Virelian had become the living symbol of that promise. As the station continued its silent orbit, Alex and Lyra sat together, side by side, ready for the future, ready for the universe, and ready to continue a journey that had only just begun. The first contact had become a lasting bond, and the story of human courage, empathy, and adaptability was only beginning to unfold.